I want to talk about a presentation by the president of the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago to the Economic Club of New York. Now, the name of this president is Austan Goolsbee, which is a wonderful and unique name. Austan is spelled A-U-S-T-A-N, and the Goolsbee is spelled G-O-O-L-S-B-E-E, which are unique spellings of both words, by the way. And the reason I'm talking about that spelling is because of an incredibly animated presentation that Austan Goolsbee did to the Economic Club of New York on April the 10th about the issues of tariffs and the U.S. economy. Now, Austan Goolsbee is a current member of the Open Market Committee of the Federal Reserve, as well as this year, as well as the members of the Open Market Committee who are from based in Washington, D.C. in the Myra Scholes building in Constitution Avenue. There are always 4 bank presidents, and that's rotated in different years. And this year, the bank presidents on the Open Market Committee are from Chicago, Boston, St. Louis, and Kansas City. As everybody knows, Kansas City is not in Kansas, but it's in Missouri. But in this incredibly animated presentation that Austan Goolsbee did, and it was a surprise to me to see this presentation because I've seen Austan present in person in Chicago. And when he had been previously in the Obama White House as the chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors. And I saw him in that role, and he was a much somber, more different person than presented to the Economic Club of New York. He was asked in an hour of fast talking, Austan Goolsbee, he started off by saying that in an interview that he'd said that he didn't believe that the response to tariffs should be an increase in interest rates, and for this he was accused of being a dove. But he said he didn't think about being on the Open Market Committee as having anything to do with birds. No, but he thought it was a different animal that he thought about, and that was the data dog. And the data dog had to sniff out what the actual data was to find how to make a decision. And once the data dog had done that, he could move forward. And right now he thought it was time for the data dog to sniff out the data. He said in the case of the effect of tariffs was that inflation would go up, and ordinarily what you'd do in that circumstance is you'd put up rates. But the problem was that when you put up tariffs, result in usually a reduction in growth. So in that situation, you'd cut tariffs. So the net result is that really you couldn't move. You would cut rates. So the net result of that is that you really couldn't move rates at all in response to it, and in response to a tariff. And he said that actually tariffs are a stagflation event, but they're a tiny event in comparison to the real stagflation that happened in the 1970s. So again, you get to the point of holding rates steady. Is it a recession? He was asked, well, the data is really quite strong, and that takes us to the data in the Chicago Fed National Activity Indicator that he's referring to and what it says in terms of our model. So in the Chicago Fed National Activity Indicator, there's 85 different individual variables, and they're in 4 categories: production, sales, employment, and personal consumption. And what they were showing in the final quarter of last year is that growth was about 0.2 of the standard error below the long-term median. And that was suggesting a growth rate of between 1.9 and 2%. But he's correct when he says that growth now is really quite strong, because in the first quarter, and the data just came out last week, growth was actually stronger in the first quarter of this year than it was the final quarter of last year. And so the growth was just a fraction below long-term trend. And when we put that into our model of the Chicago Fed National Activity Indicator, what we can see, the red line, which is the model, is lifted just slightly from about 2% to about 2.6%. And so what that says is that the US economy is really quite strong and nowhere near a recession. What we actually hope, though, maybe because of the increase in revenue which the US government will receive during the year, that will reduce domestic demand, that what the indicator will do is it will drift down towards 2% again, or 1.9% by the end of this calendar year. Indeed, in spite of all of the talk of tariffs causing a recession, right now, the outlook for the US economy is very, very strong. But we are hoping that growth softens to generate that much prized extended soft landing, which will allow rates to fall and generate a decline in the US dollar and an increase in demand for equities. And and I'll be reviewing this every month to show where it's going. But it's so far the outlook in terms of the real data for the US economy is actually quite good.